Okay. Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting to order. This is the Tuesday, June 11th, 2024, City of Franklin Board of Public Works. First order of business is roll call. Alderman Yusuf Hussain is not here. David Woznicki is absent. Clark Johnson
I'm here.
is present. Jonathan Webster.
Here.
Chairperson Charles Porter, I'm present. Ken Skowronski.
Here.
Jim Witt.
Here.
Okay, for the record, also in attendance tonight is Mayor John Nelson, City Engineer Glenn Morrow, Highway Superintendent Kevin Schlueter, and Engineering Technician Ali Elkham, something? Elkham, all right. I don't think I missed anybody. I see we have an officer in place tonight. Thank you. Welcome to the meeting. The next order of business is going to be the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. One other note is tonight, in the absence of having a board reporter or recorder, John Webster has been good enough to take on that job until we are successful in electing a new board recorder. The next item on the agenda is public comment period. Oh, you're right, minutes. Okay, thank you. Reading and approval of the minutes for the May 14th, 2024 meeting.
I move we approve as presented. Second.
Okay, motion made by John Webster, seconded by Ken Skowronski. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Motion carries. The next item, 3, is public comment period. We have 2 items on the agenda. The parking on Sharon Lane and the parking issue, or the stop sign on Sharon Lane and the parking issue on Swiss Street. If anybody from the public has anything other than that they'd like to bring for the public comment period, you're welcome to do so now. Okay, seeing nobody coming forward, I'd like to call the public comment period closed. Unfinished business, I don't think we have any unfinished business. And then I'm going to ask that we take these new business items out of order. I would like to ask that we do 5B, the parking on Sharon Lane at 39th Street first, and we'll see how that goes. How do you want to start that off?
Sure. So we talked a little bit last time when I was giving you a preview. There was a gentleman here who asked that we remove the stop signs. So the discussion is that we would like to see what the residents along Sharon Street desired. So we surveyed all the residents on Sharon Street from 42nd to 36th, and you can see their responses. We didn't tag each one with each individual resident, but you can see that it was split in favor and not in favor. So the folks that I think we got 20 responses, so pretty good response rate for what we had, and you can read their comments. So with that, I'll open it up.
Okay. Is there anybody here that would like to speak to this agenda item? Sir, if you would state your name and address for the record.
My name is Dale Weichel, 3755 West Sharon Lane. When I got this letter, I was kind of asking myself, why? What's the purpose of taking out the stop signs? It's sure not a cost savings because them signs have been paid for 20 years. So the only thing I can come up with is that it saves somebody 10 seconds that they won't have to stop. That's a little bit ridiculous. First of all, Sharon Lane is a narrow street. It's about a car and a half wide, not wide at all. There's no sidewalks. We have no problem with that. But right across from our house is a park, and it's really great to see it being used. There's constantly little kids there. There's people pulling up with their cars, which makes the road narrower. And it's safety. Today there was a couple kids or parents taking their kids out of car seats on the roadside of the street. Somebody comes along speeding, that could be a little bit dangerous. And if somebody doesn't want to spend 10 seconds to stop for a stop sign, I mean, why don't you just get up a minute earlier in a day, and you don't have that problem. You got 50 seconds to spare. The second thing is I'm thinking, why take the stop signs out there when Anita Lane is just about identical street, identical amount of houses, park is on their side of the street too. Why not take them signs out? I'm just not in favor of taking any signs out. There's a lot of people who don't obey the signs now, but at least they kind of slow down, which is a safety thing. If cars come through there at 35, 45 miles an hour, we could have problems. And these are little kids, a lot of parents, or a lot of people walking their dogs, a lot of couples walking. It's just a nice neighborhood. We don't need 35th Street where they're going 40 miles an hour down it. So obviously I'm very much against it. If DPW wants to do something, look at 35th and Drexel. That's a dead-end street. Cars coming from the west, when you stop that stop sign, you can't see them. And then two cars are one eastbound, one westbound, are pulling up, and they're just trying to get past each other so they can see. It's a little bit dangerous. So if that intersection or southwest corner is cut down, the tree, I think, and some bushes cut down, it would help the safety. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. For the Sharon Lane thing, yeah, thank you. Please come up and again state your name and your address for the record.
Hello. I live at 3952 West Sharon Lane. I'm the person that brought up this issue. And I'm just going to be frank about that. That stop sign is useless. It's out. It has no purpose. When you look at Forest Hill, it's a longer street than Sharon Lane. There's a park over there, yet you do not have stop signs on junction streets like Lakeview and so on. I would challenge anybody to show me in Franklin other streets that have one, I call it a T, with a stop sign on a main road, which is Sharon Lane. I know people talk about speed, people talk about safety with the park. As far as speed, the police department, that's their job to monitor that. As far as safety, driving by a park, there is Goodman Park, I believe, on Forest Hill. There's no stop signs there on streets that come in. People that drive automobiles have to watch what they're doing. It's our responsibility, and that's the way I look at it. That's all I can say.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for your comments.
You're welcome.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Jan Fritz, and my husband Ed and I live at 3714 West Sharon, so we're right next to the park. And we see exactly what Dale was talking about, in that there are kids and parents and pets there almost constantly. We've lived there for 46 years, so we've seen what comes and goes and how some people may hot rod through. But we love our community, and we want to keep it safe. The police have enough to do. They're not going to come and monitor, our stop signs here and there when they have other things to do. The least we can do is, as good citizens of our own area, try and keep what we have as safe as we can. And taking down that stop sign is not going to make it any safer. In the years that it's been there, the traffic is not less. There are not less people there. The stop sign is not going to do us any good. People, like Dale said, just need to slow down for a few seconds. It's really worth it as far as I can see. Could I also ask if this has been studied, what it would cost us to take that sign down?
Oh, I don't know the answer. to that,
Minimal.
but-
Okay, 'cause I don't want to pay for that.
Right. Okay, thank you for your comments.
Hi, my name is Terry Wojciechowski. I live at 3643 West Sharon Lane, and I am absolutely against having them take that stop sign down. It is a road, cars just come flying down. They blow through the stop sign on 36th in Sharon as it is. You're just giving them a raceway from 42nd all the way down to 36th. And it is just so unsafe. Today, as I was leaving, there was a car pulling up to the park, and they were getting their young children out on the roadside. And I'm just thinking these cars are flying by, and that would just be so detrimental. And all it needs is for one child to get killed because somebody didn't want to stop for a couple seconds, or you took the stop sign away, and then that would just be tragic. So please really consider keeping that stop sign here.
All right. Thank you for your comments. Is there anybody else from the audience that would like to speak to this item?
I talked already, but I'd like to point out that comparing Sharon Lane to Forest Hill is no comparison. Forest Hill has sidewalks. Forest Hill is a lot wider road. So you can't compare apples to oranges.
Yep.
It's completely different.
Okay, we understand. Thank you very much. All right, with no further comments from the... Oh, I'm sorry.
My name is Debbie Perinich. I live at 3625.
One more time, please, if you can hear that.
My name is Debbie Perinich. I live at 3625 West Sharon Lane for 45 years. That street has turned into a racetrack. If you're going to take those two signs down, take the one off of 36th and Sharon, because people go right through it. If I had $1 for every time somebody went through that sign, I'd be a millionaire. And the people walking their dogs, babies, women with babies in carriages, kids riding their bikes now during the summer, you're waiting for a tragic accident to happen. Why can't people learn to stop and obey signs?
Okay, again, thank you for your comments. All right, then I guess it's time for us to...
I think Glenn has something he wants.
No, no,
Oh, Glenn?
when they're done.
Okay. I think we're done with
Okay.
discussion from the audience. How about us up here at the...
Okay.
Oh, Glenn, go ahead.
So, so I didn't provide a write-up on this one this month, but you did ask me to look up a few things. So I did discuss with our city attorney. He's okay to remove a stop sign as long as there's justification and discussion and so forth. So there's not a liability issue. I think that was what I was asked for. As far as the evaluation, quite honestly, I don't think I would be able to warrant stop signs if no stop signs were there and we asked to put them there. But as we say that part of one of your rules for putting a stop sign up, you don't put them there to slow down traffic. Having said that, they are already there, so people are somewhat used to them, and they do serve that function, especially with the park being there. So, with all that considered, I guess a staff consideration would be just to leave the stop signs up, but it's your discussion.
Okay, thank you. Any comments from the board? Mr. Mr. Webster?
Well, I agree with you, Glenn, that, you know, the purpose of stop sign is to control the intersection, not to control speed. As you say, the warrant system that was put in place by this board in 20, 25 years ago would not warrant a stop sign here. However, I know you said you talked to the city attorney. I think there's a big, I'm not an attorney, don't quote me on that, but I just feel that there's a big liability to removing a stop sign once it's in place, because members, and this was probably put up before my time on the board, which goes back to 1990. So I suspect this was put up even before my time on the board. Does it help to put this? So I have a difficult time removing this stop sign.
If I could address that. So if you should decide that you want to take the stop signs down, I would recommend that we do some other preventative measures. So we put like cross traffic does not stop, and put some flags or something like that there for, at least for probably the next year until people get used to it.
The other thing that I was going to mention, and a number of you alluded to it tonight, and that is, unfortunately, when people drive, they recognize when a stop sign isn't warranted, and that's when you see people not stopping but slowing down and rolling through it. And this is one of those scenarios. So I'm going to make a motion to deny the request to remove the stop sign. But I would, with that comment, say, for everybody here who's in that neighborhood, who drives that neighborhood, it is up to you to stop and slow down. And the police have a lot of things to do. This would probably not go on their list of areas to look at and as a high priority, because it is a very localized thing. So I'm going to make the motion, though, to deny the request for the removal of the stop sign for my reason.
Okay, so Mr. Webster's made a motion to deny the request, and we've got a second from Ken Skoronsky.
I'll second.
Oh, Ken already seconded it. But thank you very much. Is there any further discussion on this item? Okay, then all those in favor of denying this request signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. The motion carries. So, all right. Well, thank you for bringing this to our attention and having a good discussion on it. The next item is going to be the parking on Swiss Street. And again, I think Glenn has got something that he would like to discuss.
Sure. So you may recall the pictures in your packet last month for upcoming issues, and this was discussed. Someone asked for us to consider no parking on Swiss Street, and the reason why is they showed pictures of cars parked in the street where it would appear to be difficult to pass, especially in the wintertime. So I got to be honest, I really had to struggle with this one, because when I opened up the code book and actually read what's allowed and what's not allowed, then when you go out there and actually look at how it's signed, they don't line up. So something needs to get done, one way or the other. So we did survey the residents, and you can see the responses in the packet. I guess my comment is let's sit down, figure out what needs to happen, whether it's we just need to rewrite the code to match the signs, or we just need to repost the signs to match the code, or something in between. That's totally up to you. I'm kind of puzzled as to what the solution is at this time, and I'm open to guidance, and I would imagine there's lots of folks here to give us their opinion.
Mr. Chair, if it's okay, I'd like to approach here, because we do have an update with the officer after, if citizens wish to speak on it, or I could probably clear some things up. That's where we're going.
Well, I'll recognize Mayor Nelson. Thank you. Please come up and share with us what you have.
So good evening, and thank you for allowing me to speak on this. So as a lifelong resident of Franklin, and especially this area, including my days as an altar boy in the late 70s at the church here, that's been there since 1839, there hasn't been an issue. What's happened is basically one residence has taken over an area with parking in the roadway, parking in the street, taking up part of the traffic lane and in one direction. And I know that we shouldn't be changing the ways of the world, and we should be addressing the problem at hand. That's how I view it. And we're working with addressing it. I've been working for the last, I would say, month and a half with the police department, and an officer was assigned there to work with the citizens, the neighbors, as well as addressing the resident area that has this numerous pickup trucks and other things that are parked in the roadway. And I see it all the time. I mean, I travel this way all the time. And when I say all the time, probably 4 days out of 7 days I'm passing through there. Now, to my 30 years in law enforcement said, well, if they're parked in a roadway, you cite them. It's real simple. That's how this should be handled. Well, looking at our ordinance, working with Attorney Ed Borda from our city attorney's office, and working with the chief of police and Captain Hintz, trying to make sure we have a crystal clear, probably was going to be an amendment to our ordinance that addresses vehicles parked in a roadway or obstructing traffic in a roadway so they can be cited and or towed away at the discretion of law enforcement. And that's without, I have a few other points, not to belabor them, but these are pretty important points. That in itself should address that issue. Now, speaking with the business owners there, from Crossroads, Landmark, Swiss Street, they are very, very tight for parking. Extremely tight for parking since, St. Martin's, when St. Martin's Road got redone and the county gave it to the city. So there was a number of spots that were lost and the inability to park on the roadway, so on and so forth. So now if we do something where we're making some sort of permanent restrictions, you're going to have a huge negative impact on the businesses there. Now you've got that component, so now you're going to have the businesses that are already having a tough time with parking as it is, make it worse. We don't want that. Now you enter my favorite event of the year, or second favorite, probably first, depending on the weather, Labor Day Fair. And that 2-day event where people come out of the woodwork, 250,000 people come every year, roughly, if the weather's nice. And we don't want to start recreating and looking for a solution to a problem, which is pretty simple. Change the ordinance, enforce the ordinance, and address it to the person that's violating the ordinance. Very simple. Instead of all this. And I thank Mr. Morrow, our city engineer, for putting it out there and communicating with the neighbors. I've got a lot of calls. A lot of calls. I know the businesses. I just ate at Swiss on Monday night for taco night. I'm there. I'm right there. And I see the problems. I see it firsthand. It's not something that I just hear about. No, I see it. And I'm 100% positive that a simple change to our parking ordinance will address this with the enforcement and specific. Because, again, the church has been there since 1839, been there forever. I know Mr. Skoronsky lives right there, too. I mean, this should be, in my opinion, that. And I think working with the PD and working with the city attorney's office, it should address all of this and calm the neighbors and calm the business owners that we're not looking to hurt them or harm them, and we can focus on the one issue and the one resident that's been the problem. And like I say, I've been there 56 years and counting, and I just think that we should look at that one item. And I'm going to yield now, if I could, to the Captain Hintz, because I think he may want to add something or not add something regarding his work with Mr. Borda on looking at the current parking ordinance.
Okay, thank you.
I think so.
Yeah, you got to karaoke. You got to get right in there.
I'm sorry, you're orange. You're red.
I'll echo what Engineer Morrow and Mayor Nelson said, that we also looked at options to enforce, and we found that alluding to Engineer Morrow that the statutes and the codes don't fit the enforcement applicability. So we're actively working with Attorney Borda on a resolution to either come up with a modification of the ordinance or his recommendation on what that might look like. And that's been in the works for the last few weeks.
Okay. Thank you very much.
So, and one last thing, and then I'll take my seat back there,
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
All right.
is that I just think that we should not make any, because I know this is a recommending body, so people understand the recommendation wouldn't be final. We go to Common Council. But what I'm looking at is saying let's just pump the brakes, let the police work with the city attorney's office to do a modification to the ordinance, enforce the ordinance before we go and do anything radical or drastic that's going to have a negative impact on the neighbors and the businesses. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Next, I guess we will go to any of the people that are here.
Comments?
Yeah, comments. If any of the people here would like to speak to this, now's your time to come forward. And again, state your name and address for the record.
My name is Mike Falk, 11357 West St. Martin's Road, Crossroads Pizza. Mayor Nelson hit it right on the tee. When I got that letter, I struggled for a week because it is limited parking. The road got taken away. There's an empty field behind my restaurant, and last winter, involving these trucks, we also have a snow issue now on those streets because you can't push it across St. Martin's anymore and this and that. Tried talking to the truck owner, and it was never taken care of. It causes me more costs in plowing services because there's nowhere to go with it and we're limited parking. Whoever owns the Swiss Street, I'm assuming one of the family members lives there and they park their vehicles there. I wouldn't have a problem with it, but what I do have a problem with is picking up the garbage every spring from all the stuff that's left behind. Been doing it for 25 years. I don't have a problem doing it. The area has been kept up clean and nice, but within the last 6 months, the amount of customers coming and complaining, it affects our area, and it's tough enough around there. Have we had problems between the bars and the restaurants in the past? Yeah, but we figure it out. And it just seems like it's a continuous snowball over there. Like Mayor Nelson said, I'd rather get rid of the parking completely than deal with it, but then it affects us also. So I don't know what the answers are. I'd like to think people could use common sense, but it is what it is, and we got to make a change. It's not working. It's not working. So that's all I got to say.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your comments. Oh, your time's up. No. I'm teasing. I'm just teasing.
So then Friday we get a delivery. We get our beer delivery brought in. Well, then the cops get called on us for driving down Swiss Street. Well, when they took away the parking on St. Martin's Road, it was made very clear to me by the city, DPW, that they're going to be able to use that side road. Well, now that they're running into issues, now they're going to start causing headaches. It just doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense. So that's all I got.
Okay, thank you.
Mark Kinziger, 11455 West Swiss Street. Alluding to what you said before, sir, about unable to pass in the wintertime, you're not supposed to park there anyway. You get a ticket. There's no parking on the street in the wintertime.
Okay.
Okay. And Mayor, I'm I'm just wondering, what exactly is the problem with cars parked on the street? People are inconvenienced, or they just don't like it? They don't want to look at it? I mean, what's the problem? It's not a safety issue.
Address
I'll
the
tell you
chair.
what a safety issue is.
All right, yeah. Go ahead.
If I may.
I'm just curious, what exactly?
The mayor is here, and he can address you separately, but this is your time to address the
Okay,
board.
sure.
Yeah.
And so you can make the question, and he
sure,
can
okay.
address back if he
Okay.
wishes to later.
Okay.
But we don't want to have a
Okay, sure.
conversation
That's fine.
between members
No
of
problem.
about that.
What the first gentleman said about the stop sign, where he was thinking, like, I don't understand why you would even consider doing this. Me being, I'm assuming I'm the problem resident. I don't understand what the problem is with parking cars on the street. Now, there's a sign that says no parking during church services, okay? But the sign doesn't say when church services are. It's not specific, okay? And we've had the police called multiple times because we're parked between our driveway and that sign. So the police told us to park on the other side of the sign, okay? Still waiting for somebody to give us clarification, but almost every Sunday or every other Sunday at different times of the day, the police show up and say, you're not supposed to park here, we got another call, okay? As far as what the problem is with cars parked on the drive or on the street, we have a big family and we have lots of drivers, okay? Typically, all our cars don't fit in the driveway at one time. Somebody's always pulling in and out. So I hope you're not prejudiced against big families with lots of vehicles where, sometimes they do have to park on the street, okay? But I'm just really curious, what is the big problem with parking on the street? The speed limit's 25. That's not being enforced. The weight limit on the street is 3 tons. That's not being enforced. But now we're going to create something out of thin air that's not even a huge problem. It's not a safety issue. People just don't like to look at it. And they don't want to have to sit there for the extra 10 or 15 seconds for a car to go by so then they can go by. You understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
It's all convenience. That's all it is. I don't want to wait, just like the stop sign. Somebody has to wait an extra 10 seconds, get rid of it. And that's my opinion. The other thing, too, is that because the speed limit is 25, when cars turn off of St. Martin's Road, they're hitting the road doing 40 miles an hour. I got a bunch of little kids that like to play in the yard, okay? If you're a parent, you know you can't keep eyes on them 100% of the time. One of the kids runs out in the street, gets hit by a car doing 15 and over, but the speed limit's 25, that's not being enforced. Or the delivery truck, the beer truck that the pizza guy's talking about that comes down our street, past his delivery point, past it. He passes his delivery point to turn around in front of our house on a 3-ton weight limit road. Okay? Enforce that. That's a safety issue. Okay? I drove a truck for 35 years. I can back a semi into the pub parking lot. It's just somebody doesn't want to take the time to do it. They'd rather have them go down the street, turn around. You get what I'm saying? If you're in a semi and you got a kid running out in the street, the cars parked on the street actually slows traffic down. Actually slows traffic down because I can't get a speed bump. I can't get nothing. I don't get nowhere. I've made many calls. But apparently parking a car that doesn't move is a huge issue that we really need to move on. How about enforcing the laws that we already have instead of creating new ones? Thank you.
Let's just keep our comments and address the board. If you have any questions or comments, please. Is there anybody else that would like to speak on this issue? Thank you. Please come up to the mic.
My name is Kim Cohen. I live at 11522 West Swiss Street. My point on all of this is all the residents have driveways. We all have decent-sized yards. There's no reason for people to be parking their cars on the street for days. My suggestion was a no parking overnight ordinance on the street. I think that would clear some of this up. It wouldn't affect the businesses. You have people staying overnight. It would clean up the residential area. Again, we all have driveways. We all have big yards. There's no reason. That's my comment.
Okay, thank you for sharing.
I'm Ryan Scheffler, 11430 West Swiss Street. I'm one of the owners of Swiss Street Pub and Grill. I do not own the property. I do lease the business. This is a big deal for us. I am concerned about the safety. Mayor Nelson hit most of the main issues. Mike over at Crossroads, the delivery truck. We have multiple vehicle or delivery trucks that are delivering to 3 businesses in that area. So, sometimes my lot is full. They can't always pull through or back into it. Sometimes I have big crowds, so my parking lot's full. It's a little hard to back a semi into it when it's full of people. I guess the biggest thing I'm concerned about is I do consider it an eyesore. I'm trying to do a lot of dinner crowds and stuff like that. I like to try and close down early. I have no problem with the no overnight parking. But a lot of us do have very limited parking. I mean, me as a business owner, I'm renting part of my parking lot from Brad Schuster. So if you take that away, I wouldn't have any parking either, but I actually pay for the extra parking for me. I know that John, who rents the apartments, I know the apartment above me, both of those 2 park in my back parking lot, both registered vehicles, no problem. There are other vehicles over there that that are not registered, no plates on them. The vehicles across the street, not registered, no plates on them. And I think that affects a lot of the businesses right there as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Anybody else want to come up and speak to this?
I'm Jocelyn Hart. I also live at 11522 West Swiss Street. As for the issue with all of the trucks and everything, there's no license plates on them, so how do we know if they're registered or not? Our community, our neighborhood is not a dumping ground or a junkyard, and the trucks are not only parked out on the street, they're also using the 2 houses that are abandoned also as parking places as well some of the days, most days. They're also using business parking. I've lived here my entire life. I worked at Crossroads for about 6.5 years. This has never been an issue until the family in question has moved in. Their lot is also probably a good half a lot bigger than most of ours. So there is plenty of ample space and room where they could potentially park their vehicles on their lawn and cause less disruption to the neighborhood. As for the safety, our window overlooks where a lot of the issues are with passing, and I have seen almost a handful of nearly head-on collisions as far as that's concerned, and that is very scary, especially living in that small area, and people do whip around that corner from 116th to Swiss, and having all of those cars there makes it very difficult. I've had issues just trying to turn into our driveway to get home. So it is a safety issue, it is a concern, and there's no need to have a bunch of unregistered vehicles parked throughout our entire community.
Thank you.
My name is Danielle Kinziger, 11455 West Swiss Street. So that's our property that's being talked about. I'm going to talk about the trucks that go down the road. Yeah, it's illegal. There's plenty of space. I'm a stay-at-home mom, so I can see the delivery almost every Friday. There's plenty of space for this truck to back in. So it's a particular, not every truck does the turnaround there by 116th. The Pepsi guy backs his truck in. It's just a particular Eagle Brewing. Yeah, it's completely unsafe, but it's also illegal. So that should be enforced. The parking thing, it's not, you can park on the road. I don't know what to say. It's almost like people don't like it. The not being specific with the church time, I agree with that. That sign should be more detailed. But otherwise, I mean, it is what it is. Like my husband said, we have a big family, and when people are coming and going, it's nice to be able to park on the road, and it's legal to park on the road. And we even had, so that's pretty much my point. I would focus on the trucks. That is illegal.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening. Darlene Collins, 8628 South 116th Street. I just want to say that it is a safety issue. I mean, we have been driving in that area, and another car has been coming at us, and we've had to weave in and out of cars. When they're parked on both sides of the roads, I don't know how an emergency vehicle would get in. I don't want my life to have to depend on an ambulance or fire truck having to go down St. Martin's and out Loomis and down Ryan and 116th to get to my house. Plowing, I've seen winter issues where the cars have been taken up more than half of the road when there's been snow. I thank you, Mayor, for looking into it, and your solution sounds reasonable. Another solution would maybe be just put no parking signs on the residential side of Swiss Street, the southern side. Leave the businesses alone and just have no parking signs down on that side because nobody parks there. Should be parking there anyway. I think that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your consideration.
Yep. Okay, is there anybody else that would like to come forward on this issue and speak to it? Okay, yes, Glenn.
So if I could comment on a couple of things that I heard. So the issue with delivery trucks, so just so everyone knows, the rules is that you are allowed to violate the weight limit of a road if you're making a delivery to or making a pickup from a place. So in this situation, if they're making delivery, that would be allowed, regardless of how much they weigh. As far as specific with the church times, that probably is a good comment. So if we do decide whatever we do, probably should make the signs match whatever the code language is.
Okay.
Those are the two comments that you might find interesting.
All right, well, I'll open it up to the board. Does anybody up here have anything they'd like to discuss regarding this item? Not at this time. All right. You put me on the spot. Now what are we going to do? Personally, I like the suggestion that the mayor came up with, and I think to move forward with that could resolve a lot of the problems that we have before us. I think it's also incumbent on us to clean up the ordinance as far as the no parking signs and make sure that they conform to what we currently have on the books.
So I'd like to suggest maybe I'll work with the police department and figure out exactly what the signage is, and we'll make sure the language matches the signs. Is that what you're asking?
That's what I'm saying. Just if we have housekeeping issues on our side, we should probably take care of those housekeeping issues first. And if the suggestion that Mayor Nelson had about how would we go about, I'm speaking to Mayor here for a second, how would we go about making that amendment to that ordinance that you were talking about?
Be an ordinance. So, if I may.
Would that be a motion on our part?
Well, so...
Or recommendation?
So an ordinance is actually something enacted by Common Council. You're actually talking about modifying the code.
Okay.
So to modify the code is actually just an ordinance. And that's what an ordinance does, is modify the code. So you would recommend an ordinance that would go to Common Council, and Common Council would make the final decision on that. So I think what I'm hearing you suggest is maybe we'll come back at next meeting or a future meeting with a proposed ordinance for you to consider.
Yes.
Okay.
That sounds like a real good way of putting it. Thank you very much, Mr. Webster.
Mr. Mayor, I think I heard you make a comment, and correct me if I'm wrong. I know you will. You've done it before. But I thought at least what I deduced from your comment is that there was some definitional questions in the ordinance according to
The code.
in the code as it currently sits. Is there a definition that has to be changed or addressed? Is that what we're talking about here, or I'm confused?
Sure. If we're talking about the parking ordinance, that in itself has to have an adjustment or an addendum to that, which would include parking in a traffic lane. Okay? Like the gentleman spoke earlier about, there's vehicles parked in a traffic lane that slows traffic down, this would address that. And I guess when you live long enough, you hear everything, right? So what I'm saying is this part of this ordinance would address vehicles stopped or parked in a traffic lane, because it's in a traffic lane that we're talking about, and that would address that.
So how do we define the difference between a parking lane and a traffic lane? In this case, we are allowing parking, so there has to be a parking lane and a traffic lane.
Well, parking in a traffic lane, that's what the officers are going to be working with Mr. Borda about, because you've got the traffic lane, your directional travel lane, then off to the right you have the right shoulder, if that's what you're going to talk about, the shoulder area, and that's fine. We encourage people, you park on that shoulder area, not obstructing traffic. If you've got to turn your vehicle out of your traffic lane to avoid a vehicle parked there, that makes no sense. That doesn't slow anything down. It puts you in danger because now you're traveling on oncoming traffic, so on and so forth. That's what the police will be working with the city attorney's office to have that clarified as far as where you can legally park on, and more importantly, off the roadway, but not on the roadway. So if you're parked on the roadway, you would be cited. If you're parked off the roadway, you can park there, but that's going to have to be something that's changed in ordinance to clarify it.
This might actually be a question for Glenn, but as long as you're standing there, I don't know who knows. Is this roadway, how many feet is this roadway? How many feet wide? Swiss Street.
I don't know, but it is fairly narrow.
Yeah, it's one of the oldest roads.
And this is kind of where my point is coming through with traffic lane and parking lane. I mean, by the narrowest definition, I think you're talking 8 foot per traffic lane, probably. Well, 11 but if you're narrowest definition, I'm talking 8. So to get a traffic lane and parking lanes in both directions, you almost have to have 32 feet at minimum. And that's my problem and my question with this whole scenario is I don't know if we have, you're talking about, is the parking lane off the street on the shoulder? You see where I'm coming from. There's a definition issue here that I think we're running into.
And Mr. Webster, to kind of clarify just a little bit of this, is the roadway. So the roadway itself, a lot of our roadways have that white fog line painted. Mm-hmm. That is the universal sign for don't park in the roadway. Okay? You learn that when you're 16, 15 years old and whatever, and that's where you don't park. You don't park over that fog line. Because if you park over the fog line, now you're in a traffic lane. Mm-hmm. If you park outside the fog line, great. Now, I think one of the solutions to the gentleman that was up here and his family talking was perhaps on that property area off to the right, maybe you could add a gravel to the area off to the right to help assist them in the shoulder area if that helps them with their parking concerns. I'm looking for solutions that make a reasonable thing for the whole neighborhood.
Yeah, and
but if there's a drainage ditch, I'm just wondering where there is an area. If there's not, I'm just trying to look for some options.
I'm just bringing up a logical, as an engineer, I'm bringing up a logical argument as to how we can affect the least effect on all of the neighbors in the area. Because these are all reasonable people who have come up and talked. They might yap back and forth, especially when they get out of here, they might yap back and forth. But they've been pretty reasonable with us. And so I'm trying to make sure that whatever we devise at the end of this is a reasonable solution that takes into account all these things. And so that's why I bring up the questions about the width of the road, like you said, maybe gravel in front of there to create two traffic. So I think this is a more than just an ordinance question in this particular case.
Well, we may see a long-term solution, maybe putting in some culverts with some gravel over it to perhaps address that part of the right. I mean, you're in the oldest section of Franklin.
I understand.
I mean, this is the roads are, the buggy days and carriages, and they were never dreaming that there'd be beer trucks delivering something. I mean, it didn't exist. But now where we're at now is how do we make it safe for the residents that are there without disrupting this entire craziness? We want to avoid that. And I think what's going to be the first thing is going to be some cures with enforcement, perhaps also some striping, so but the vehicles have to be out of traffic, have to be. That's like number one. And then perhaps we've got a lot of gravel, we've got a lot of other resources that perhaps could be a simple fix to help assist the residents there. Just open.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate your time on that.
Thank you. No, no. That's a private property issue that I don't want to get into, but
so would you be looking for at this point? I believe that there is a need for engineering department, the mayor, the alderman, and the captain in the city, to have some conversations and to work out whether this is an ordinance question, whether this is a public question as to how we're going to handle it. I mean, I think there's work that needs to be done before it comes back in front of this board.
I agreed.
So I think I'm going to make a motion to table this until the affected parties get together and work out what type of an ordinance, what type of effect can be done within the city, and obviously interact with the people of the city, okay, or the residents and the businesses of the area to work out a solution to the problem at hand. I think there's a solution to this problem, and I think that would be the direction we need to go. And if we have to mediate the situation, I think we can do that.
Glenn?
Given the number of the departments and how busy everyone is right now, I can guarantee it won't be at the next meeting. But I'm going to try to get it done sometime this summer. Just keep your eyes on agendas, and we'll get the word out.
So my motion would be to table this until the
issue is ready.
The issue is ready with the affected parties, and to come back addressing all of the issues at hand.
Okay, we've heard the motion to table this issue. Does anybody want to have anything to say about that motion to table?
I'll second it.
Okay, it's seconded. All those in favor? I'm not discussing that right now. Right now we're on the motion. I'm dealing with the motion right now, so please just bear with me. All right, we've got the motion made. It's been seconded by Board Member Witt. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the motion carries. And we'll revisit it.
Do you want me to address that question?
Yes, go ahead.
All right. So when I said that a delivery truck is allowed to violate the weight limits, that's anywhere in the city, as long as a delivery truck is making a delivery to or doing a pickup for certain residents. Otherwise, so a delivery truck would not be allowed to drive through and say go down 116th Street to hit Ryan Road, but they need to get in and out, and generally I don't know we have it defined, but generally hang on, sir. Yeah, hang on a second. I guess that'd be a call for the police officer to debate, but that's a discussion.
There's only one person allowed to talk at a time here, so please let Mr. Morrow finish his point. And we're not here to argue about this either. I mean, he's telling us what the deal is, and that's what it is. You don't necessarily have to like what you hear from him, but that's what he has, and that's the information he's sharing with us. So please just maintain, okay?
I guess not everything's black and white. Sometimes police officers ask to make a judgment call, and he would have to make that call, or she would have to make that call if it's needed for that delivery. So that's what I would say.
All right, thank you for clarifying that. Okay, the motion passes, and then you're going to notify us and get it on the agenda when it's going to come back up, and the parties will be notified or you'll hear about it that's coming back up for discussion. But
okay,
all right,
I will.
Okay, the next item to discuss. The next item is 5C, is election of a Board of Public Works recorder. All right. I'm going to ask that we table this until a future meeting because we're missing 2 board members right now, and I'd like them both to be included in this decision. And so I would entertain a motion to that effect. And okay, so Jim Witz made a motion to table the election of the Board Public Works Recorder until we'll put it on the agenda for next month, and hopefully we'll have all the members here and we can discuss it then. Do I have a second? Second. And Clark Johnson. Oh, Clark Johnson, yes. Thank you. Thank you very much. Second, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nay, opposed? The ayes have it. Future agenda items. Warning signs request.
Sure.
Glenn?
This gentleman has been talking to me for, I want to say, years regarding this issue. He thinks he has turned it in, and I will tell you that I cannot find it anywhere. I've just emails and so forth. So one of his trips to my counter, I said, please get it in writing. I will make sure it gets on the board packet. So the gentleman is asking for a warning sign regarding school buses on 68th Street. We're going to discuss that next month. And so you might read that and go by there and just kind of see what's going on. I will also tell you that, I'm sorry. I was getting ready to jump to the next subject item.
You were getting ready to do what?
Jump to the next subject item.
Oh, okay.
Can I make a request on this particular warning sign application that you're going to be bringing? Can
Sure.
I make a request?
Yes.
Specifically, since this is talking about school bus, one of the things in here talks about school buses. Is it possible before you come back to reach out through the school system and get the particular school bus driver that drives this particular route that they're talking about? Does he perceive that there's an issue for him?
Okay.
I think that would be information we could use.
That's good. That's good. That's why we talk about them ahead of time.
Okay. All right, good. Well, the next item is schedule the next meeting, but did Glenn want to say something about that? Huh?
Yeah, I was notified today that there's going to be a special common council meeting that night in this room. So when you show up next month, it'll be in the hearing room.
Okay. Well, anyway, now that we know that, schedule the next meeting is going to...
Which also means that Alderman Hassan will not be here for your discussion.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Well, the next meeting is Tuesday, July 9th at 6 p.m., 2024. With that, we're adjourned. 6:59 p.m. Thank you very much.